Have you ever heard of a story where three simple apples led to a brutal murder and a kingdom-wide manhunt? It sounds unbelievable, but this is the perplexing case that landed on the desk of the great Caliph Harun al-Rashid. It all began one morning when fishermen, casting their nets in the Tigris River, pulled up a heavy, locked chest. Expecting treasure, they brought it before the Caliph. But when the chest was forced open, the court gasped in horror. Inside was not gold or jewels, but the dismembered body of a young woman wrapped in a black cloak. Harun al-Rashid was furious. A heinous crime had been committed right under his nose in his capital, Baghdad. He turned to his trusted vizier Jafar and gave him a chilling ultimatum: find the murderer in 3 days, or you and your entire family will pay the price. Jafar was thrown into a state of panic. 3 days to solve a mystery with no clues, no witnesses, and no identity for the victim. He scoured the city, questioned everyone he could, but the trail was called. 2 days passed, and a sense of dread washed over him. He had failed. On the 3rd day, resigned to his fate, he began saying his goodbyes to his family, preparing for the Caliph's wrath. Just as all hope seemed lost, a young man burst into the Caliph's court, wailing and tearing at his clothes. "I am the murderer," he confessed, his voice choked with grief. "I killed her. I deserve to be punished." The court was stunned, but moments later, an old man stumbled forward, his face etched with sorrow. "Do not believe him, O Caliph," the old man cried. "He is lying to save me. I am the true murderer." Now, Harun al-Rashid was faced with an even bigger puzzle. 2 men confessing to the same crime. Who was telling the truth? The Caliph turned to the young man and demanded his story. The young man, his eyes filled with tears, began to speak. The murdered woman, he explained, was his wife, the mother of his 3 young sons, and the love of his life. They had a happy, loving marriage. Recently, she had fallen gravely ill. After weeks of suffering, she finally whispered a desperate craving. She wanted an apple. This was no simple request. Apples were incredibly rare in Baghdad at that time. But driven by love, the young man embarked on a quest. He traveled all the way to Basra, a journey of many days, and managed to find a farmer who sold him 3 precious apples for a small fortune. He rushed back to Baghdad and presented the apples to his ailing wife. She was overjoyed, but her illness had left her too weak to even eat them. She simply placed them by her bedside. The young man then had to leave for his shop. When he returned home later that day, he was shocked to find the apples gone. He asked his wife what had happened, and she simply said she didn't know. He didn't believe her. His mind started racing with suspicion and jealousy. Had she given them to a secret lover? Consumed by a storm of doubt, he left his house in a rage. As he was walking through the city streets, he saw a slave playing with something familiar. It was one of his apples. He confronted the slave, asking where he got it. The slave's answer shattered his world. "My master's wife gave it to me. the slave said with a smirk. "I told her I had 2 more just like it at home." The young man's heart turned to ice. He was convinced his wife had betrayed him. The slave's lie painted a picture of infidelity so vivid, so cruel, that the young man was blinded by fury. He stormed back home, his mind a tempest of rage and heartbreak. He confronted his wife, who, in her weak and confused state, couldn't give him a clear answer. In that moment of madness, he drew his sword and, without a second thought, ended the life of the woman he loved more than anything. Overcome with horror at what he had done, he disposed of her body in the chest and threw it into the river, hoping to hide his terrible crime forever. Now, standing before the Caliph, he was ready to accept his fate. "My jealousy and rashness killed an innocent woman," he wept. "I am the one who should die." Harun al-Rashid listened, his expression a mixture of pity and sternness. He believed the young man's story. It had the painful ring of truth. He turned to the old man, who had also confessed. "And why did you claim to be the murderer?" the Caliph asked. The old man fell to his knees. "Because, Your Majesty, I am her father. When I heard he had killed my daughter, I wished only to die in his place, to spare his young sons from becoming orphans." The tragedy was now clear. But the Caliph was a man of justice, not just vengeance. He saw that the true villain was not the grieving husband, but the person whose lie had ignited the flame of jealousy. He turned back to the young man. "There is one more piece to this puzzle," he said. "Who was the slave who lied to you?" The young man described the slave, but he didn't know his name or who his master was. The Caliph then gave Jafar a new, even more difficult task. "You have 3 days to find this slave," he commanded. "If you fail, the husband will be executed for his crime, and you will still face my judgment." Jafar's heart sank. Finding one specific slave in the sprawling city of Baghdad seemed like an impossible task. He searched high and low, from the markets to the grandest houses, but found no trace of him. Once again, the deadline loomed, and Jafar prepared for the worst. On the final day defeated, he returned to his own home to bid his family farewell. As he entered, he was greeted by his beloved youngest daughter. She ran to him, holding something in her hand. "Look, father," she said happily. "Our slave Rayyan brought me a present." Jafar looked down at his daughter's hand, and his blood ran cold. She was holding a rare, precious apple. The exact kind of apple from the story. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Rayyan gave it to me," she replied. "He said he found it in the street, and that he told the man who dropped it that he had 2 more at home." In that instant, everything clicked into place. The final piece of the puzzle had been in his own house the entire time. The lying slave was his own. Jafar immediately brought his slave Rayyan before the Caliph. The slave confessed everything. He had seen the young man by the apples, followed him, and stolen one when it rolled away. When confronted, he had told a malicious lie simply for his own amusement, never imagining the catastrophic consequences. The Caliph looked at the chain of events: a husband's desperate love, a wife's tragic illness, a slave's cruel lie, and a moment of fatal rage. He saw that while the husband had committed the act, the true poison in this story was the lie. Harun al-Rashid, in his wisdom, decided to show mercy. He pardoned the heartbroken husband, recognizing that his grief and remorse were punishment enough. But for the slave Rayan, whose thoughtless cruelty had destroyed a family, justice would be swift. And so the case of the three apples was closed. It stands as a powerful lesson from the tales of the 1001 Nights, a chilling reminder of how a single lie, a moment of unchecked jealousy, can unravel lives and lead to unspeakable tragedy. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into a classic tale of mystery and justice, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from history and legend. We'll see you in the next video.